All right, this is Kristen Stradt.
And Megan Grove.
Today is February 23rd of 2012, and I am interviewing Roger Riggins and Sandra Riggins. The interview is taking place at their home in Macomb, Illinois. This interview is part of the Oral History Project for English 482 Life Writing, Spring 2012.
Here we go. The first question we had for you guys was just, how long did you go to the lab school, and what grades were you there for?
Both of us were just there for high school.
For high school?
We drove in from Blythensville every day. Blythensville was not accredited, and we wanted to go to college. And so there were about 70 of us that bought a bus, and we came into Western. Now, his brothers and sisters, I guess mine too, started a little earlier, but we started as freshmen.
Freshmen.
All right. Well, the next question we had, since you were just there for high school, we looked up in your yearbooks and we saw like the activities you were involved in. If you wanted to, I don't know if you want us to like kind of talk about specific ones, or if you just want to talk about everything.
Whichever ones were most like important.
I looked in the yearbook too, and it wasn't right.
Really?
Because it said I just was in band for 2 years, and I was in band all 4 years.
Really?
I don't know whether I didn't look his up. I don't know whether his is right or not.
We had also that you were in the girls' club, or was it?
I was in G.A.A., which is athletic, and we did different things: bowling, swimming, soccer, basketball. What else? Hockey. I don't remember whether we did tennis or not, or whether that was just in PE. I can't remember for sure.
And then you were in some sports, right, in high school?
Right. I played football all 4 years, track and field all 4 years, basketball 2 years, and I've got an article here. I'll let you read it.
Okay.
About our football team. Our coach, he was there for 18 years. During that time, he had a one-loss record of 114 wins, 12 losses.
Wow.
Which is 90%. 90.8. 90.5, excuse me. I have a brother that's 6 years younger than me. I was in on the string of undefeated seasons. He was on the tail end of that same string of undefeated seasons. So something like, I don't know, 8 years, something like that, that we never lost a game.
Wow. That's really awesome.
And in 1967, the team was unscored on, unscored, untied, and the opposition never scored a point the whole season.
Wow.
So we were 394 points, opposition 0 in that 1 year.
And that was when you were playing?
That was in 67, no.
Okay.
Not when I was playing. That was the year after. See, we graduated in 1958, and that string of wins started a year or two before then. I don't remember. And then my brother, who's 6 years younger, he was played for football, during that same string of wins.
And how did that make your experience at school with having such popular sports and being so good at them, and your team's doing so well?
Well, I don't quite know how to answer that. Number one, we had probably the best coach ever.
We thought anyway.
Yeah.
And which is true. Then we also had probably a lot of things that other small schools did not have. We went to the away games. This is track and also football. And I don't know about basketball. Did we go on the bus?
You know, I didn't follow basketball very much.
Anyway,
so.
the football games, back then the university had a bus. We traveled to the away games on the university bus in football, and also in track. We had probably a lot more equipment that other small schools would not have. Back then it was Western Illinois State Teachers College,
Yes.
and then later it was changed to WIU. But I think we had something like 7 assistant coaches for our team, which were practice teachers. You know, they were practice.
Right.
That was the idea of the university back then,
The lab
to
school.
prepare teachers, you know, for their future jobs. So we had a lot of advantages that other schools did not have. And probably there's some schools didn't care, you know, didn't
Yeah.
like us because we were.
A lot of schools that didn't like us.
Trying to be careful
And they
how I-
always thought that we were a large school, but we were not. We had 49 in our class. So, you know, it wasn't that we had a lot, but we did have other
It wasn't a big
advantages.
school, it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was
The
small.
high school,
yeah.
I don't think was ever over 200 total. So we were small school.
So they thought you were like bigger because
But
you
we
were
had a
on
lot
the
of
private
advantages,
university.
yeah.
Yeah, and we had equipment and
Right.
things
Kind
that.
of got to reap the benefits.
Yeah.
That's cool
Yeah,
though.
this is true.
That is. Did you guys go on the senior trip
Yes.
to New Orleans? You want to tell us about that?
I'll let you start.
I wrote some things.
She's got several things written
because
down.
I thought, oh gee, I don't know if I really remember
We left Macomb
by bus.
by bus, and here again, was it the university bus? Or a charter
assume-
bus?
I assume
Anyway,
it was university.
We left
bus, but-
Macomb, went to St. Louis by bus. In St. Louis, we got on the train and then headed south, and if I remember right, we stopped at a lot of little towns between.
Well, we stopped mainly at Memphis, and we had a layover. And they were, I don't know whether we got on a different train or they were, I don't know what they were doing. I don't remember that part.
Well, this
we
has
stopped
been a
at
few years
Memphis.
ago.
We stopped at Memphis, and we had a layover, so we went in town, and we weren't in a very nice neighborhood. And as a group of us were going, there was this guy that came up to us and tried to sell us a diamond ring for $100. And we didn't buy it.
And also, that's right after Elvis became very popular.
Oh wow.
And of course, he's from Memphis. And I remember going into a men's clothing store that supposedly is where Elvis got a lot of his clothes. What else do you remember?
I really don't. We just walked downtown and saw some things, and then we walked back to the train and got back on
I don't
again.
remember how many hour layover we had, but I remember walking around.
Yeah, it was a little bit
But I definitely remember Elvis.
Yeah.
that part. I didn't go. Apparently, was not in his group because I don't remember that part at all. So
Then we got back on the train and headed south. And I don't remember other towns that we stopped, but I do remember stopping at what
Macomb,
I thought a lot of stops.
Mississippi,
Oh.
but it was spelled MC, capital C-O-M-B, instead of Macomb. But we were
Right.
from Macomb, so that one.
Kind of cool.
And we eventually got to New Orleans. I and several of the other guys were up all night playing cards.
And they played right in the middle of the aisle.
I don't know, we
So you
stacked
couldn't get to the
suitcases, I think,
bathroom.
right down the center aisle of the train car.
They put their suitcases out.
And we played cards all night long.
And this was while you're still on the train?
Was while we're on the train, yeah.
We slept all night on the train.
Okay.
So then when we got to New Orleans, we can't really remember
I was darn tired.
whether we stayed another night in New Orleans. I can't remember that at all. But we saw a bunch of things. We went to the cemetery, which was really different from here because it was all above ground.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating that they said you could put a body in there, and at the end of the year, it would be gone. It would just be decomposed in dust, I guess. And then they could sell that to somebody else, unless you had a family one that you had. But they had them all the way around the outside edge, all the wall, were these ones you could just buy and put people in, and then they would put somebody else in.
You know the reason all the vaults had to be above ground. You know why?
Probably the flooding.
To water table.
New Orleans is below sea level.
So the
You
water.
put them in the ground,
They just
the way to go.
they come right up.
That's, yep.
They'll float right
Good.
up. It was all below ground or above ground.
And they took us to the French Quarter, and we ate there. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but it was a kind of a fancy restaurant and had all the grill work on the outside. And we did take a bus trip, and they showed us a bunch of the different grill work and said this was famous. And one of them that we remember had a corn, because we were from because we were from Illinois, I guess. I
Corn
thought
country.
Yeah.
country, that it was corn all the way across. And we have a few pictures, but they're not very good pictures because cameras were not very great, and we didn't have a great camera apparently. Most of them are black and white. We have a few color ones. I didn't have a color camera, so I have one of my friends apparently did have. We also had a choice then in the we had time in the French Quarter that after they drove us around and told us about different things, then we could go back and we went into a courtyard. I thought that was kind of cool. We went into the house and got to see the courtyard. And I loved, they had so many different painters, and they would do caricatures of you. And but what I wanted most was they had a big picture of the live oak trees with the moss hanging from it. I thought that was beautiful, but I couldn't afford that picture. And I would have loved to have had that. And then we had a choice. We could go for a boat ride, which he did, or we took the bus and went, I did, and went to the open market that was down close to the docks. You want to tell about the boat ride? Since I wasn't there.
I just remember being on the boat ride, and I don't remember how long it lasted or just what. I remember going, around the water, and these great big huge trees, I mean with trunks, huge, and then all this mossy
Those are probably
stuff.
cypress trees.
Cypress tree, okay. They of course are growing up out of the water, and all this mossy stuff hanging. I mean, it was neat just to see it, but I don't really remember much else about that, the boat trip.
Well, I didn't go on it, so I didn't.
What else you have written?
And that's really, for New Orleans, that's about all that I had.
How long
that
were
we
you
did.
there?
I can't remember that part.
I don't remember. It was just got there like in the morning and then spent a day.
Or whether we were there, and we can't remember going to a motel that night. So whether we went on to Biloxi,
Then we left there and went to Biloxi, Mississippi.
Oh.
I don't know. In Biloxi we stayed 2 or 3 nights, but I asked another friend, I said, how long did we stay? And she said, I think 5 days at least. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So
That might have been the entire trip was 5 days.
well, I'm sure that's what she meant.
But I know in Biloxi we stayed at the MacArthur Hotel, right on the Gulf. And big white building,
Pillars that had a lot
had
of
big
Pillars in the front.
tall pillars that went up, but I don't know, was it like 3 stories high or 4?
Well, just one section of it
I don't remember.
was like
but
3
it was
stories,
kind of a
and
neat place.
then it had out at the side. It had a swimming pool, and then you would go across the highway, and it was the beach. And so it was really cool. We got to go to the beach, and one day we took and I think this again was choice. I don't think everybody went, but did you go on the boat trip over to the island?
Yes.
So you got on the boat, and we were probably gone most of the morning or most of the afternoon or part of the day. I don't remember for sure. I mostly remember it was an old fort, and it was not a lot of pieces left, but I mean, you could see where they had put the cannons, and you could see kind of an outline of it, and it was kind of cool to go see. And even though I was dark or had dark hair, I still sunburned. So I wore my long sleeve shirt because I knew whenever we went to Lake of the Ozarks, I had to be very careful. But I had a friend who was redheaded, and she just wore her swimming suit, and she got so burned that when we came back, our sponsor's wife, Mr. and Mrs. Lauren Taylor, went with us. I can't remember
Math teacher.
if he was the only one that went. I mean, the only chaperones we had or
The only
not.
adult.
That's all I remember.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, I know something that will work," and he had he had shaving cream that had menthol in it, so it was cooling, and so she had, because we really weren't close to anything to go. I don't know whether we even had too much stuff back then. We certainly didn't have much anything to put on to keep the sun off of you.
No sunscreen.
Well, it may have been, but we didn't use it.
Might not have even been sunscreen back then.
I read in the library when we were looking up your yearbooks, we found the principal's report from the year, and the woman who wrote about your guys' class was Lauren Taylor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And,
he was our class sponsor all the way through school.
Was he a teacher?
He was a math teacher.
Yeah, a teacher.
Math teacher, right.
Okay. I wondered if you guys would know.
And he and his wife were really sweet.
That's cool.
And we have lots of pictures of us on the beach. What else?
At this port out in the Gulf that we went, I remember having, I guess you'd call it maybe a casino, because I remember having a lot of what am I trying to say?
I never remember that at all. So I think we went to a different place.
Well, it had slot machines.
Okay.
Now, I think maybe Nancy did say she remembered slot
remember
machines,
that.
and I didn't remember
And
slot.
I assume it was had a restaurant there also, but I remember the slot machines.
Well, if you... I don't know whether we should tell you all the bad things we
All the
did.
ornery things we did.
Oh, you can. We're not opposed.
Back in, I'll tell this one.
Okay.
If that was turned off, I might tell you another one. When we were at this hotel in Biloxi, at the back, it was backed up against the woods, timber, whatever you want to call it. And there was a balcony back there. And I don't know how we got a hold of these. Maybe you could just buy them down there. But cherry bombs,
No.
firecrackers, you know what cherry bombs are?
Yeah.
And then we came up with a slingshot. We were lighting these cherry bombs and then shooting them out over the tops of the trees there. And of course,
That's funny. And that was with friends from your class and things that you did?
Yeah, this was,
Yeah.
some of us guys.
Probably Joe Lawson. He was always the one
we had
that-
some. Don't say names.
Well, he was the one that...
We're on tape here.
Oh, okay, we won't say his name.
we had some ornery ones.
That's okay. That's good.
But I remember shooting those cherry bombs, lighting them, and then shooting them out over the trees. They make a pretty good noise,
Yeah.
most of us,
You can't buy them now. Back then, you could just buy M80s and cherry bombs wherever. But we'd always go from here, over to Keokuk, and then a little bit south, get into Missouri, buy fireworks,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
bring them back here.
That's funny.
yes, okay. I remember while we were on the train coming down, and this is my husband now. We weren't dating then, but he came and said, "Do you want to come and see out the door?" And it had about like a half door, and you could lean out. He said, "Now lean out and look at that." Well, then somebody in the car up ahead had a glass full of water that they tipped, and you got your face all wet. They tried with that with a number of different girls, I think.
That is on me. So how did you guys like going to Western High and it being the lab school and having like a lot of like the, it was like a teacher school and the teachers coming to observe you guys, the classes and stuff. Like, how did that affect your learning experience?
I liked it. They didn't just come to observe only. They actually taught,
We had a lot of teachers, yeah.
because they were called practice teachers.
At that time, practice teachers didn't go out to other schools, only the lab schools, so you had a lot of them. And I don't think that it ever bothered me at all to have a lot of different teachers or people there all the time. I don't recall that it ever bothered me.
No, I apparently liked it.
Yeah.
I don't remember at all disliking.
Do you remember any like specific stories about any of the practice teachers? Were any of them maybe not good teachers or?
Not really. I remember, and you may know this lady now. Do you know Sue Melton owns the Diamond Den up on the square?
Mm-mm.
She was, I had her for a practice teacher when I was a freshman in English class. And over the years, she's owned several businesses uptown, but she has the Diamond Den, which is over on the northeast corner of the square.
Okay.
And she's there every day. But I had her for practice teacher. I don't really remember names of any of the others.
Yeah.
There were a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. And most every class we had, didn't we have practice teachers?
I don't recall a practice teacher in Latin. Maybe we did have, but I don't recall.
I don't either.
What was your favorite subject when you were in school? What classes did you like the best?
I liked home ec.
Did you?
And there again, we probably did a lot more things than other kids, and we had a really nice room that had a lot of equipment in it, and I just really thought that was cool. I liked home ec. I did remember sewing and a lot of cooking.
And were you in the homemaker association?
Yes.
Club?
Home
Yes.
ec club?
What was that? What did you do for that?
Well, being out of town, we didn't get to do as many things if they did anything at night or other things. So G.A.A. we stayed. My dad was actually the bus driver, and he brought the car over and left the car at night. So if we got to stay for some things, then I had a car, and then I would take a carload of kids back home. And then have to drive a car back again the next morning. So Dad would have it to come home with. I don't remember doing a whole lot of extra things, other than probably some of the things that I'm remembering in home ec was probably in FFA or whatever it was called. I can't even remember. But I think that
was yours.
FHA.
Future Homemakers of America.
Yeah, okay, yes. I remember more about G.A.A. and we stayed after school. The bus had already gone, but there were quite a few of us that stayed. And coming from a smaller town like Blythensville, we didn't really have a lot of PE things. So this was real. I had never done soccer. I had never done hockey. I had never played basketball. This was all really new, and swimming, and I really enjoyed doing that. Of course, then the girls didn't play.
Yeah.
They didn't have any athletic things for girls to do. This was just the only thing that you had a chance to do. And if I'd gone to a smaller school, I wouldn't have done that either. So this was pretty cool. And I do remember playing basketball, and you only did half court. Girls only they didn't think girls could run the whole court. So if you were a guard, which I always was, and I figured I was a guard because I didn't shoot very good baskets. But I was short, so. But we only stayed on your half of the court, and then the forwards were the only ones that could go to the other end of the court and shoot. So
you would stay after school, and that's when you'd participate in those sports and stuff. And were a lot of the girls in your class in that club, or was it small?
No, it was really a fair amount of kids in that class in G.A.A. Both kids who lived in town and the ones that drove.
Was there a lot of kids who came from out of town to go to the high school?
Just our group.
Our group from the Blandonsville area. Do you know where Blandonsville is? 6 miles, or a little less than 6 miles north on 67 is Good Hope. You turn left and go west 9 miles, that's Blandonsville.
Oh, okay. That's not that far.
No,
it's not very far.
And how many of there?
About 70 of us.
About 70
total, yeah.
And all the days.
That wouldn't have just been the high school, but brothers and sisters that went down.
Yeah, my brother went in the lower grades, and my sister too.
And you guys went to lab school when it was in Simpkins still, right?
Yes.
What do you remember about Simpkins?
I remember the steps, and there are a lot of steps going up, and I think they're maybe marble. And they were, so many people had gone up and down the steps that right in the middle they were getting kind of
wearing
in the middle. What else? We had, and I think this was one of the ways that we made money for our class trip, was we had sock hops after ball games and things in the cafeteria. And the cafeteria was actually fairly new. My friends, we used to have to bring our lunch. We didn't have a cafeteria, but we did have a cafeteria when we went there. And you could have a dance after the games, but and why we call them sock hops, because you couldn't use your shoes, and we didn't have tennis shoes that much then, so we just danced in our socks. And that was one of the ways we made money, to be able to go on the trip, plus concessions and candy sales, and we picked up corn too. We had a guy that his dad was a farmer, and every year we would go out after they had picked their corn, and they would bring a big wagon, and we would throw the corn in, and then we would sell it, and that was one of the ways we could make money.
Back then, the corn pickers then were not as efficient as they are now.
Left a lot of corn.
Especially on the end rows where it turned and went back the other way. But you could walk through there and you found a lot of ear corn on the ground, and we picked up
many farmers would do this themselves, just either to feed their own stock or whatever, but this man was generous and let us do it every year.
That's interesting.
You asked her about favorite classes. I think the math classes, physics classes, maybe chemistry, but our physics teacher was Waldo Horriman. He was also the high school principal. He is the one that Horriman Hall is named after.
Oh, okay.
And wasn't he, I hope I'm getting this right, the only building that was built in honor of a person while they were still alive was Horriman Hall.
He was actually.
Of course, he had Morgan Gym years and years ago. There was Morgan Gym long before Western Hall. You had Grody Hall and just Bayless Hall and on and on and on. And these are the last names of teachers back years ago. But he was the only one that had a building built in his honor while he was still alive.
He was also from Blandonsville. And that was one of the reasons that we were able to come to
It had a
Western
lot to do with us.
without having tuition, which many of us probably wouldn't have been able to afford.
Oh, okay.
So we could have come to Macomb High, but it was high tuition. So
Dr. Horban helped you guys
yes.
able to get there. That's interesting. Did you know any of the other teachers that like our buildings are named for? Did you know any of those other ones? Like No Block? Were you guys there? when
Oh,
he was-
yeah. Dr. Knobloch. Knew him very well. He had a daughter that was in high school 2 years behind us, maybe?
Oh, really?
2 or 3.
2 or 3 years
I
behind
don't
us.
remember that she was in the twins class, so my brothers are 2 years younger.
Oh, okay.
His sister was 1 year younger, so we pretty well know these classes really well because your brothers and sisters were in them too. So.
Yeah.
And there were several professors whose children, went to school there. So
Yeah.
we knew a lot of professors. I mean, we could go through the list of names and knew them.
Yeah. Yeah, we heard that a lot of the kids who would go was because their parents taught at Western or something, and so
Yeah.
it's interesting that you guys came out of town from another school to go there. So that's
It's only because that the school up there, I forget the reason now, but they were a non-accredited school. So by staying there and graduating from that school, you could not enter college.
Well, you couldn't get in as easily. You would have to take a lot of tests to make sure they knew you had the right skills to be able to do that. But if you went to an accredited school, then you could just go automatically on to school. So we both went to Western then.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, my mother and dad both went to Western. Roger's mother and her mother went to Western when it was normal school.
It's called Western. Oh,
My mother, it was normal school, and then when we went, it was Western Illinois College, and then when my children went, then it was WIU University. So it's a
You
progression.
got to see it change
Yeah.
quite a bit. That's interesting.
and the Western High School, what we say Western High School, back when my mother went there, was called Western Academy.
Okay.
That's what the high school is called.
And it was still in Simpkins then?
Yeah,
That's where
it always was Simpkins.
No, that little building that's the art school, they started there. And the art where they show artwork now.
Garwood?
The little building right behind
Oh.
Sherman.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's where normal was when your mother went to
Oh.
school.
It always is.
Yeah.
What's
Right around
now,
there. Yeah.
what's now Simpkins?
Yeah.
You've been in Kofac Hall, right?
Yep.
The stage, well, that was our gymnasium
Okay.
at the high school. Up on the stage is our old gym floor.
Really?
Yeah, the wood and everything, that was our gym floor.
That's neat.
And right towards the back side of that stage is, of course, where the hoop was, the basket. But then, of course, it's been all changed now. Of course, you got the slanted floor and so forth. But Kofac was our gymnasium where we played the basketball games and,
That is neat.
so forth and so on.
And you played for there, right? The basketball team?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you remember people talking about the tunnels that would go?
Oh, yes. That was interesting. We enjoyed that.
When
Mostly when I was in college, because I still worked. I worked at the library at the high school. And so then I wouldn't have to get my coat and stuff. I could just go through the tunnel.
Wow, that's so
When I was a senior, I took 3 math classes, college classes. Back then they were on the quarter system rather than semester. And there's 4 of us guys that were seniors that took these math classes, and we walked through the tunnel every day,
Did you?
back and forth. And at the end of the tunnel, at the university, there was a little restaurant.
Really?
Kind of snack shop or whatever you want to call it, hangout.
Yeah.
And I remember the math, it was math 131, 132, and 133 was the course's name. So I remember that. Back to Mr. Horban. After Coach Sockler, that 67 season, where he went and unscored upon and so forth, he and then Mr. Horban retired both at the same time.
Oh, wow. So you lost two people that you guys.
Yeah, right.
That's interesting.
So this is fun. Reminiscing,
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
What do you have?
Because you played basketball, track, and football, right? Which one do you think was like your favorite, or you have like the best? You had the best.
Oh, I like the football.
Oh yeah.
And track. I didn't like. Well, I liked the coach.
Yeah.
Coach Sockler was the football coach and track coach.
Oh, okay. So you probably knew him pretty well then.
Uh-huh. And we had a real good relay team. I think we went, back then they had what they called the Roseville relays, the Avon relays, the Keokuk relays, Quincy relays, where we went out of town. And we always went to those, and there was 5 of us that ran the relay races. I also high jumped. There's another fellow ran the quarter mile. Another one ran the 220. Back then it was 220, 880, 440. 440 is a quarter mile. They don't go by that. It's meters now. But the fellow, one of the ones that was on our track team, went to state 2 years and won the 440. Got the gold medal at the state track meet. Another fellow ran the 220, and he got the gold medal. Remember Lauren? 1 year?
I don't remember.
Went to state, he got a gold medal.
I don't remember.
So we had some fast runners on our relay teams. So we go to these relays around. We come home with gold medals.
Yeah.
Every one of them,
He's going to show us.
We had a 440 relay, the 880 relay, and then the mile relay. And of course I ran, one of the legs of each one of those. And I've got a picture over here of me doing the high jump.
Yeah, we have a picture. And I thought this picture was out of the yearbook, but it was apparently taken at one, and we got a copy of it, but it wasn't in the yearbook, so I saw it last night when I looked.
That's really cool.
These are really neat.
Ooh. This fellow right here in the white shirt, that's Coach Sockler.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow. These are so cool.
But this is 5th place in the district meet. And one of these medals is from that. 5 feet 8 inches tall.
Wow.
5/8 wide jump.
Now that's not a very good record
Probably
at all, but
not.
that was pretty good.
Yeah.
They may be jumping 7 feet now. I don't really know.
I read.
Well, they don't jump the same way. You jump forward,
This
and
is
now they do
called
it
barrel
backward.
roll, and now it's the Fosbury flop, or they go over backwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They can
On
do
their
So if
that.
I could go.
head first on their back.
Right.
These are neat. Because I think I read somewhere that the year you guys graduated, you guys did really well in track. And there was like a lot of people who ran really well and did like really fast. So I wonder if they were talking about you. Doing breaking records and stuff. That's awesome.
Jim Hammond was the one that
That's cool.
in my class that ran the 440 at state. Lauren Hall ran the 220, and of course they were on our relay teams.
Relay teams, so.
Oh, another neat thing, all of our home games and this track meet is held at Hanson Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another advantage,
You had a nice big field right there.
Nice
for you.
big field, and playing on that grass was like playing on a nice big carpet.
Oh,
Big
yeah.
carpet,
That's awesome.
And I was in band, and then they had a lot of band things at halftime.
Right.
We had a good marching band that, in all the parades, we always got to go to Western. Well, Westerns, at that time, there would be maybe 40, 50 schools come in to Western's homecoming parade. It was a long parade, and it was really a big deal to be asked, and we always got to be second behind the college.
University was first, and we were the second.
Wow.
So we thought, well, that was pretty special.
But really, when she says 40 or 50
There were
schools
maybe I'm
participating in
exaggerating, I
the
don't know, but there was a
homecoming
lot.
parade, WIU's. Really, that's right.
Yeah,
It
have a
was
lot.
a long parade. Now there's just a handful of schools that send their band.
But I can still remember the Warren Gould saying, "Guy left."
What did you play in band?
I played saxophone.
Saxophone. And you said you did that all 4 years.
Uh-huh.
Did you have? So you guys probably had like a pretty small band for high school, or?
I don't know. It was a fairly good sized
Was
band
it?
for
I
as
remember.
much as we had.
And when we're in
I
chorus,
don't
it
know
was a
how
pretty
much
large
it was.
group. I wasn't in the band. I was singing in the chorus.
Yeah.
I wasn't on tape. I'd tell you another. I'll tell you when you turn it on.
Okay.
Hey, I was in band and chorus, and so therefore I'm a very poor typist because they met at the same time as the typing class. I took typing class 1 day a week. So I was in the other. I was just going to look up. Ours only has at the back of the university one. I think the year after we went through.
Graduated. Then
they
Western High had their own yearbook.
but we did not.
So work is back.
Yeah, you were still in the
Yeah, you're
sequel.
the sequel, right?
Yeah, it was like I think what
Sequel,
60?
and then they had like an epilogue after that.
And you really can't tell.
Yeah.
But we had to wear a uniform for G.A.A. and for PE, and they were red bloomers, which you can't tell that too much, and a white shirt. And so we have a fair
That's a
amount
lot of.
for choir there.
That's quite a few.
I think
that's like a lot.
I think it's a lot for
a
the
smaller
size of the
school,
school.
So everyone who went there was pretty involved in something then.
Yes.
Most students did quite a few activities. And so you would do chorus and band during school hours, or so that was like a class?
It was during
During typing?
during typing.
Yeah.
It might have been study hall for part of the others because that was the only class that I remember.
So you had lots of options of different things you could take, and you could do and you got to choose every year, or like did you do it like semesters, like change up things?
No, you did it for a year.
You did it year. That's neat.
But it was, you could go like you did to classes at the university, and that would not have been
If
possible
you
we'd
had
been
enough
going
credits to graduate, then you could take college classes.
Did a lot of people do that or take advantage of?
Probably the ones that were going to Western were going to be going on to college.
Right.
I just remember us 4 guys going over there every day to the math classes. I don't remember anybody else taking.
I did not take any
College
college classes until I went to college there.
So were you guys close when you were in high school? Were you guys like in the same friend group, or did you date in high school?
Because we came in on the bus, it was a group of kids, Blainsville kids, that
All
came
knew
in.
each other.
We knew each other. We came from a small school, so we did know most. We really didn't date.
I started school at Blainsville in the 7th grade. And of course she's in the same class. So I've known Sandra, since the 7th grade. And then the 4 years.
We didn't
high
really
school.
date very much. Once in a while we'd go to BYF or something together, but mostly until his mother's very fond of saying until they moved to Macomb, and then he had to drive back over to pick me up.
Yeah, I dated other girls, because I lived in Blainsville all the time we were going through high school. And I was, every weekend, Saturday night, I'd put $2 worth of gas in the car. I'd run around all weekend
Oh, wow.
on $2 worth. Really? Come over here to the Presbyterian Church, had, that's on North Dudley, isn't it? They had team dance every Saturday night, and they had a big, huge basement, and that was the hangout. That's what all of us, the high school kids did, went to the team dance. So I'm coming over here every weekend, dating various,
Right.
So after I get through high school, then my mom, then we moved to Macomb. Then I started dating her.
You're still going back and forth.
So I'm living in Macomb, and I'm driving to Blandonsville to see her.
So it's backwards now.
Yeah.
His mother always complained about that.
Well, really now, that's pretty much all the questions we have. So if there's anything else you just want to tell us about the school, or any other things you had in mind, or
any other stories, or...
I'll think of something pretty soon after you leave.
Yeah.
That's always the way it is.
Yeah.
Is that turned on or off?
I can turn it off if you want.
No? Is there anything else that
I
you
can't think of. I really enjoyed art class, and I probably wouldn't have been able to take an art when we were there. During lunch hour, we could dance. We would dance in our study hall. At one corner of it, or one half of it, was kind of divided, and we could dance.
We had a TV in there, and I remember throughout the year, I don't remember going in there and watching TV.
No, I don't think we got to watch it.
But when the World Series came around, we're all in there watching. Back then, it was the Yankees and the Dodgers.
Oh.
It was Brooklyn Dodgers back then, and of course New York Yankees. But they, for several years, it seemed like they were the ones that were playing in the World Series.
Wow.
And in 1956, I believe it was, when Don Larson pitched a perfect game in the World Series, we were all sitting there watching that. I remember seeing that.
That's cool.
We had a lot of fun. The high school, if I remember right, took up the top floor, the fourth floor, and third floor, or just fourth floor?
This fourth floor, mostly.
Okay, fourth floor.
Although our art class was in the
and then what we call the little theater, and I understand it's still there on the third floor.
Yeah,
That's where it used to be in the museum.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'd always have our assemblies there prior to the football game, the basketball games. We'd all meet there, go team go, this type of thing.
And I was in 2 plays. I was in Midsummer Night's Dream when I was a freshman, and I was a fairy.
That's right.
then.
We had the plays in there.
And when I was a junior, I was in the night of January the 16th, and I got to play someone from Sweden, and I couldn't talk like that anymore. That was, and when I was looking at my yearbook, our Dr. Harnish was the director of the plays, and he had written in Sweden, in how I would have pronounced it, and I thought that was funny. I'd kind of forgotten about that.
No, that's funny. Were you ever in any plays?
I was in Midsummer Night's Dream.
Were you?
Just 1 year. I think it was just 1 year.
Yeah.
I was in
That's
a play.
And was that like an after-school activity, or did you get to do that in a class?
Probably after school, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
That's okay.
I don't remember
Not either.
whether it was.
Yeah.
But luckily, because my dad was driving the bus, we did always have our car. And we drove back and forth. But you drove quite a bit too, because once in a while I would ride with you or with Lee after school for some
Back
reason.
before us guys had our driver's license, then there's usually about 4 different parents would bring us home after football practice. And then when we got to be 16, then we had our driver's license and could drive back and forth if we could get the car.
Several had their own cars. I never had
And
my
that's
own
back when
car.
families had one car, period,
Well, Lee had a car, and Bob had a car.
Well, yeah.
So there's a few.
They were. They were. A lot of us.
Most of us had
our
family
own car when
yeah.
we turned 16. You know.
That's interesting. I never would have guessed that people came from outside of Macomb to go to high school. That's really interesting. I'm glad we were paired with you guys so you could hear that, because most other people we've talked to, and we had 2 people come into our class and talk to us.
It's like a tour.
Yeah, and they graduated like in the
60s.
early, in the 60s. So they weren't in you guys' class, but they showed us around. They talked about the little theater and like the cafeteria.
They talked about the dancing
and the big gym, and they talked about the tunnels. So it was kind of, I knew a few things to get to
cool though.
So, but it's just a whole different. You guys' experience in Simpkins is so much different from ours. So.
And I keep thinking that I'm going to go back, but since I graduated in '58. I have never been back into Simpkins Hall.
Really?
I keep thinking, man, you need to go back there and just walk the 4th floor and the 3rd floor. And
they're going on Heritage Days. We're going to get to.
Okay, I got wind
they're going
of.
to do it in Simpkins.
Yeah. So we talked about that today in class, that you guys are going to get to go in Simpkins, and that's where our interviews with you guys are going to be at. They're going to have them in Simpkins for you, everyone to read. Our papers that we write. So. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Where did you have industrial arts? Wasn't it on the ground floor too?
Down the basement.
Because
Down by the boiler room.
I don't remember that, but I do know that art was on.
We've been out to Kofax several times to see various performers. The violin player, Benny Kim, and he had a brother. He was in Cindy's class.
Yeah, our daughter's.
Our daughter was in the very same class as Benny Kim, and I mean, he's a world-renowned violin player.
Wow.
And he was out here, I think, last March and the March before that.
I think that's about.
And we went out, I think it's close to 2 years ago, we went out to see Benny and Eric, was his brother.
His brother's name's Eric.
He plays the cello, I believe, and Eric plays the violin, but they're, world-renowned, really, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, they've played with, you name the symphonies, they've played,
That's neat.
And then we had a daycare home license for
42 years.
42 years. She just retired from that about 4 years ago. During that time, we had several children whose parents were in the music department at Western. So we'd go out and see this one, and we'd go out and see that one. And then some of them were in the school, public school system, which she's still teaching, isn't she? Peggy Erickson.
Mm-hmm. But she's not in music anymore.
Okay, but over the years we've,
Right.
we've gone out there, had an opportunity to go out to Kofax several times.
So you've been near Simpkins.
Pardon?
You guys would be near Simpkins.
Yeah.
That's neat.
That's cool.
But sometime after the recitals at Kofax, then they'll go back to the back there and they'll have punch and cookies and so forth. But I keep thinking someday I'm going to go on a little further, because I don't remember just how it was all laid out.
Right.
Have you ever been after a performance there when you go out the left side of the stage and down the steps, and there's a little area there where they had the punch and cookies and so forth?
Our grandsons are in piano lessons.
Oh.
That area right there, and then north where it looks like they store some band equipment, that was the boys' locker room.
Okay.
Back when we...
That's cool.
And the girls were on the other side.
And the girls were on the other side.
But you can't go back in there too much anymore.
No.
Yeah, that'll be neat. That'll be neat to go out there and take another look and
Yeah.
see if you really remember it the way it is,
Yeah.
Right. That's so interesting. Well, if you want, I can turn it on.